Well, it's good to be out here again one more time. Glad that you're here. I've been anticipating doing this subject now for several days and been putting it off a little bit, but I think my conviction is to go ahead and get this on video and let the chips fall where they may. I don't usually am too concerned about the chips falling because I don't know how many people actually is going to hear this anyway, but it could be that there may be somebody that would be interested in what is being said. And so, this subject today is on the word revival. Now, I'm not going to use a whole lot of Bible, but I will read a couple of verses in Romans chapter 12 if you want to get your Bible and get ready. And we'll just simply read the word today. But the kind of revival that I believe pleases God more than any other revival is a revival that is a heart revival. I'm talking about a heart revival. I'm not talking about a lot of places in this community anyway, when they have a revival, they hold it Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. It's usually a 3-night revival, and they usually only speak to the people that is in their church, because generally very few people ever attend any revivals anymore. That's not a heart revival. I'm not saying you can't have a meeting. I'm not saying you can't gather in a church, but the bottom line is it a heart revival? Is it the one that moves the heart of God? Is it a life-changing revival? A lot of times we hear the same messages over and over again. I'm sure that by now, if anybody has watched my channel at any length at all, will see that I have primarily one main focus, and that is people that are lost being saved. That is my concern. That is where I believe that I need to be. I'm no theologian. I'm not smart. I don't have a college degree. I don't have a PhD in nothing. But I know that there's people that are lost that are sitting in the churches that thinks that everything is fine. Everything is good. I have a feeling it's going to take a heart revival. It's going to take a life-changing revival. But people, first of all, need to understand where they are in their heart-changing revival. If their desire is not to have this heart-changing revival, this life-changing revival, the likelihood is it's not going to happen. I think, honestly, let me say this at the very beginning. I have a feeling, this is just me now, I might be wrong, but I honestly think that the days of revival was about over with. Because if Jesus was to return, and I believe he is, he knows who it is that's going to get saved. He knows who it is that is his child. And I believe that he is delaying his coming for maybe just a few more people that will happen to listen and to desire that unique revival, that heart revival, that life-changing revival. That's the revival that I believe that the church is in need of. I believe it needs to be a serious revival. See, today we don't really have serious revivals. If 8 or 10, 15 or 20, 25 comes on a Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday night, it almost seems like that there is no hunger for revival because we go to church. God, that's enough. We go to church. But yet half of us even come. Half of us don't even come to church. It surprises me how that people can say they grow in the Lord, but they never darken the door of a church. That's one of the reasons I come out here and make videos, because I feel like that just maybe somebody might come along over time, whenever that is, and they'll find a video. Last night I went to bed and I had so many on the counter that I remember the number. I got up this morning, it had jumped like 25 numbers. And I thank God for everyone that comes on the channel and watches. But I don't know who's going to watch. I don't know who's going to take this serious. I don't know who wants a heart revival. I don't know who wants a life-changing revival. I don't know who wants a serious revival. Many churches don't even have revival today. They done got out of that. Hey, you're lucky to get me on Sunday morning at 11 o'clock. Don't count me in for Sunday school at 10. I'll come for morning worship. I remember there was a man that made a video years ago, and the video or the soundtrack was a telephone from God, a telephone call from God. It was sort of a joke, but really in a way it wasn't a joke. It was the real thing. I believe if we had a telephone from God or a phone call from God, what would he say to us? Sunday school's not that big a deal? Church service is not that big a deal? You know, not only do I think we need a serious revival, we need a soul-winning revival. There's people that are lost. There's people that are lost, but it seems to me like that focus and emphasis is away from the church. That's just my opinion. I feel like that it's sort of a long gone thing for a soul-winning revival. Revival revives the ones that are saved. A revival technically is not really meant for a lost person. Because if they're a lost person, they don't have nothing to revive. I mean, they can get saved, yes. They can see their need of salvation, but a revival can only revive the one that is his child, that is God's child. A person that is not God's child, there's no reviving him until he gets saved. He first of all has to get saved in order for there to be any kind of revival that he's willing to accept. We need a soul-winning revival. You know what revival we really need? We need an end-time revival. Meaning that Jesus could split the eastern skies tonight. What if he was to come back tonight? How many people would have to hurry and get their act together and get their house in order, so to speak? Can I tell you something? If we knew the Lord was coming back tonight, I still don't think a lot of people would care about getting their house in order. You know why? Because some people don't believe that he's coming at all. People don't believe he's real. People had never seen Jesus. They never heard Jesus. But Jesus has been calling through these different videos. Now, I can't speak for a lot of other videos. I don't know what is said on other people's videos. What I try to produce here is something that I feel like that everybody that comes by should be able to relate to. That's what I try to do anyway. I think we need a soul-winning revival. There's people that are lost. People's not going to get saved, number one, at a revival if they don't go. And again, they can't be revived until there's something inside that Jesus puts in them to cause a revival. We need an end of time revival. The days are at hand. Revelation 1 and verse 3 tells us that time is at hand, and it is. Time is getting very, very close. You know what else that the kind of revival we need? We need a non-religious revival. It shouldn't be about if the church is a Baptist, Pentecostal, Lutheran, Holiness, whatever you name. It doesn't really matter. It should never be about a religious revival. A religious revival won't work. It ain't going to happen. It ain't going to be a heart revival if it's a religious revival. If I'm going to go do a revival and all I'm going to hear is people speaking other languages that I don't understand, then how is that going to help anybody? The unsaved is going to walk out there like they're a bunch of idiots. I'm not trying to disrespect nobody. Don't get me wrong. I'm saying that you got people out here that are lost and they're undone and they have no clue of what it is to help them, but yet will settle for a religious revival. That doesn't work. There's only one revival that really works, and that is a God-pleasing revival. A God-pleasing revival, a real revival, something that God can smile at, something that God can turn the spigot on and let the words of the Lord come out to people that are just religious, but yet they're lost. They're religious, but they're lost. Wouldn't it be neat to have a noticeable revival? Now, a lot of people's going to go and say, well, Ken, you're worried about numbers. You're worried about people. You're worried about the numbers of people. No, I'm just worried. Would it be a noticeable revival? Was it noticeable when Jesus went to Lazarus' tomb to raise him up? Was it noticeable? There was people that was crying around the tomb. Jesus telling Martha, I am the resurrection and the life. Where have you laid him? And then people followed Jesus to the grave. And he said, Lazarus, come forward. And he came forth, just like the Bible said. Do you want a noticeable environment? Here's how we see it. There's a lot that I've said so far, but here's how we see it. Well, first of all, let me say this. Do you want to see it? Do you really want to see it? That's the question. Maybe I should have asked that first. Do you want to see it? Here's how we see it if we really want to see it. I'm in Romans chapter 12. And I told you I was just going to read it to save time. Romans chapter 12 and verse 1 and 2. I beseech you therefore, brethren, see, he's talking to the Christian here now, by the mercies of God, God is a God of mercy, that ye present your bodies a living sacrifice. Well, something has to bring revival to have a body that can be presented a living sacrifice, holy. Something has to happen in order for there to be holiness. And I'm not talking about the holiness of the church with the name holiness on the top of it. That's not what I'm talking about. Acceptable unto God. Meaning if it's acceptable unto God, we shouldn't care if it's accepted by anybody else. If we go into a church and the pastor doesn't accept it, he should just get over it. It ought to be about the acceptable unto God. Not acceptable to the minister that is at the church. Maybe he is the part that is guilty of the reason that we don't have true revival today in 2021. We got too many people that want to have a revival, that they want to have their holiness revival, their Pentecostal revival, their Baptist revival, their Methodist revival. And none of that's going to work. It says here, which is your reasonable service. Meaning that's something that we just automatically do. But listen to verse 2. But be not conformed to this world. See, this world has religion. There's a lot of people that know how to do religion. Oh, they can do religion. Yes, sir, they can do religion. Be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed. Remember, they made a toy that you box it all up in a nice little container, but then you start tearing that container apart and you start pulling the pieces out, and all of a sudden it transforms into something like 5 times bigger than what it actually was when it was all folded together. It's a lot like a tent. Go down to Walmart and buy a 2-man tent and go and bring it home, and the thing looks like it fits in a Walmart bag. But when you start putting it together, all of a sudden then it explodes 3 times bigger, 4 times, 5 times bigger than the box. This is talking about being transformed, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. What makes your mind get renewed? Revival. But if you're lost, can revival transform your mind? Not if you don't go. Not if you don't hear the conviction of the Lord. That ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. Does God want to prove this here, the good? Does he want to prove what is good? He does. He sure does. He wants to prove what is good. He wants to prove what is acceptable. Acceptable to who? To the congregation? No, they need to be where they need to listen and examine the fact that they might be lost themselves. You got teachers trying to teach Sunday school that they might even be lost themselves. And that's sad. That ye may prove what is that good and acceptable. And you notice the next word? The perfect. God has a perfect will. Now that word perfect means mature. It's talking about I am more mature today than I was 5 years ago. I'm more mature today than I was last week. And God willing, I hope to be more mature a week from now than I am today. Because I'm going to put my face in this Bible. I'm going to study this Bible. I'm going to get the answers to this Bible so that in the event somebody wants a revival, I'm talking about a personal revival. When somebody decides they want a personal revival, I want to be there to be able to read them the plan of salvation. I want to be there to tell them the wages of sin is death. I want to be there for all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. I want to be the one to read to them, God commendeth his love toward us in that while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. I want to read to them that if thou shalt confess with thy mouth the Lord Jesus and believe in thy heart that God raised him from the dead, thou shalt be saved. I want to be able to tell that verse to them. I want to be able to say the verse, for whosoever shall call on the name of the Lord shall be saved. I want to be able to use that verse with somebody. Because when I use that verse with someone, guess what's going to happen? That person is either going to come to the Lord or he's going to get further. He's not going to stay there. He's either going to come close to the Lord or he's going to get further. But you know what? If the person happens to get further, he will never be able to say that somebody helped him. Never. Never. He will always be able to remember that somebody tried to tell me, somebody tried to show me. I've had people to call. I give my phone number out every time I make a video. I say the word elderly ministry. I invite people to call. Sometimes when I talk to someone, I never hear nothing back from them, but I share with them the gospel of how it is to be born from above. I'm faithful to at least share with them to make sure that they go get their Bible if they got one. And I make sure that they follow along and they understand the words and the verses that I'm telling them. And I invite them to call me back and to discuss. And if there's things that needs to be discussed, I want them to return the call back to me. But sometimes you never hear from nobody. But I've got the satisfaction in knowing that I give them the plan of salvation. That people can know. 1 John 5:13. These things have I written unto you that believe on the name of the Son of God, that ye may know that you have eternal life, that ye may believe on the name of the Son of God. And I always close with John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. But see, today, we don't want this kind of revival. And that's the reason I'm sad to have to inform you today that we might not see the revival like I just discussed. Because if it's not on the menu of people's minds and hearts, the likelihood of there being any kind of revival like this is slim to none. I hate to say that, but people are so interested in having their own little revival, and that's the revival that they want. You're welcome to call me. That website, Elderly Ministry, has got a phone number on there. You can give me a call. I'd love to talk to you. Leave a message when you do. Share the video if you think this will help somebody. Do your part to help somebody, okay? Thank y'all.